part 2. So now we're going to look at verse 22 of Daniel 2. Then there's this word Gimel Lamed Aleph. Well, Gimel Lamed is like these 2 letters like this, which is like the Korean flag, the yin and the yang, the rolling rock. It means turnabout, exile, expose, uncover, reveal, or discover. Then there's this word Ayin Mem Yod Kuf, Amik. Well, it means valley. So you could say he uncovers the valley. But the word amik also, like a valley being deep, also means deep study, profound study. So I had made mention, I think it was last week, about doing profound study. Well, that's what this is. That's what this word study of Paleo-Hebrew is. And then, so if you say, well, the word amik isn't necessarily about a valley, it's about studying wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, which is the previous verse. Uncovering, revealing, discovering. What's that got to do? Well, it's like a revolving door. That's the picture of Gimel Lamed, where we get the word Goliath and Gilgal and Golgotha. It all comes from the same root, which is the word for head, which is like something that rolls. Skull. And then there's the word Mem, Samik, Tav, Resh, Tav, Aleph. So again, Vav, Mem, prefix letters, Tav, Aleph, suffix letters. The word Satar or Samik, Tav, Resh means hidden or a secret. Mem would be the place or the time of the secret. Yod, Dalet, Ayin, he knows. Mem, Hey, where we get the word what? Mem, Chet, Shin, Vav, Kaf. Well, Chosek, Chet, Shin, Kaf, like in the very beginning, it was darkness before it was light, Genesis 1. That means not only darkness, but ignorance and illiteracy, a type of poverty of mind, as well as poverty of economics or circumstances. And then the word Vav, Nun, Hey, Yod, Resh, Aleph. Well, Nahar, Nun, Hey, Resh, because Yod can be taken out, put in, means shining, flowing, streaming, illuminating, clarity. Ayin Mem Hey is people, and Shin Resh Aleph, where you could say, oh, Shin Resh means prince, Sar. But Shin can be a prefix letter that means in the condition or the belonging to, and Resh Aleph, if you look at Resh Aleph Hey, it means see, behold, or put on exhibition, allow to be perceptible. So we could read this as saying, whatever's in darkness, it's Yahuwah's regard, his esteem, his glory, his kavod, to give illumination to people who, now remember what Yeshua said, whoever has ears to hear, let him hear. Book of Revelation, what the Ruach is saying to the kahilat, the assemblies, the Spirit says to the churches, as it says in English. So who is this Ayin Mem Hey? So if we read it in the end of verse 22, and light dwells with him. What is in the darkness? He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with him. I don't think that's what it says. I think this means he will reveal deep, profound study where things are hidden. He knows. Who's the he? Oh, is it referring to Yahweh, or is it referring to the guy who's going to do, like us, what we're doing on this whole talk, the ones doing the deep, profound study? See, in Hebrew, the subject of he who, he, it, they, I, it jumps all over the place. English grammar requires you lock in. Johnny and his dog took a walk, and he went over and sniffed the tree. He who? Johnny or the dog? You need to specify. I remember being in grammar school and get, the teacher putting red marks all over the page for not, and I remember he who. In English, you have to be very specific, but in Hebrew, it's like they're never specific. You have to always guess who is the subject and who is the action working on which subject. And we're going to bump into that regarding that stone that hits the feet. He knows what is it. He who searches for the understanding and the knowledge by deep study in the hidden place, though he is in the condition of darkness and illiteracy, Yahuwah will provide that people with shining, flowing, streaming illumination of clarity. So I choose to believe that's what this verse says. You can believe whatever you want. These translators can believe whatever they want. But I'm saying that Daniel is rejoicing that Yahuwah allowed him to comprehend. And we can have that same attitude. And if that's what we're going to believe of our Elohim, then that's what he'll do. Those are the shoes you provide. Those are the shoes he's going to go walking in. And I say that, what's in my mind is the name of the town that David lived in was Ziklag. Ziklag. So what? Well, the Ziklag literally is army boot. The boot you just go stomping in. And to Ziklag is also not only the word army boot, but it's the picture of a swarm of hornets. Man, you throw a rock at a hornet nest and just watch those guys like a swarm of army boots coming out in your direction. And when David was gone, that's where I think it was the Amalekites or somebody came and burned the city and took all of his women and children captives. Stirred up a hornet's nest from David. There's pictures in all the Hebrew words. And if we believe that our Elohim, Yahuwah Zavot, wears army boots or wears flip-flop sandals, you're going to have a different disposition of your Elohim. Verse 23, to you, Allah, Aleph Lamed Hey, it says of my fathers, but the word here, see again, Aramaic and Hebrew read a little difference. This is Aleph Bet Hey Tav Yod. Well, Aleph Bet Hey, if you look in the dictionary, means not just father, but willing and vigorous, of vigorous attitudes. And Tav Yod is a suffix that means I have or I will have. By you, Allah, my vigorous will. Not just, oh, you're the God of my fathers. Yeah, he is the Elohim of our fathers, but what does that mean? Daniel has a vigorous, that's where we get the word aviv, like springtime, Aleph Bet Bet or Aleph Bet Yod Bet, and it means shoot, verdure, vigor, lively. You are my lively desire. Mem, Hey, Vav, Dalet, Aleph, like Hod, Hodu Layuaki Tov, Kileolam Chazdu, thanks, praise, echoing, reverberating, resounding, like these waves. We'll get into that in a few minutes, these recurring waves. And then here's the word Vav Mem, Shin Bet Het. Well, the word Shin Bet Het means soothe, calm, appease, praised, glorified, raised in value. So when someone graduates summa cum laude, that means with honors. It's Latin for with praise and honor, congratulated, choice best, excellence, but it also means be still. Be still, my soul. What does it mean to be still? It also means to be this most praiseworthy, excellent place, the highest order of your class. And not just that you're contending with other people at your age level. It's class of human. For us to understand who Yahuwah is, giving him thanks and praise, knowing that he is what fills us with vigor, that is the place of choice excellence, and that we can be still there knowing that I find refuge in his esteem, his mind, his heart, that he's been waiting all these centuries for somebody to take him at that level. The next word, Aleph Nun Hey. Well, Aleph Nun Yod means I, myself. Again, this is Aramaic. Dalet Yod Chet Mem, Chet Kaf Mem. That's wisdom. Gimel Bet Vav Resh. That's Gabora, heroic, majestic. Yod Hey Bet Tav. Well, Hey Bet, that's the root word of Aleph Hey Bet. Hey would be the word love, but it means give. So Yod Hey Bet Tav, he has given Lamed Yod to me. Vav Kaf Ayin Nun. Well, Kaf is a prefix, but Ayin Nun, that is the word at the beginning of verse 20, ayin nun hey, he gave me this burden. He gave me such a concern. He presented to us the call, the summon, the kara, hey, you guys want to learn Hebrew? Nah, too busy. Nah, I don't know. I'm gonna watch Simpsons on TV. I'm gonna watch Friends, or I've got other things to do. He puts out the call and then says, would you like to take up the burden of learning this? Hey Vav Dalet Ayin Tav Nun Yod. The information of bet ayin means to bubble up. Ayin Yod Nun is eyes, bubbling up eyes. But it's not just the word ayin meaning eyes, but ayin meaning weigh carefully, consider exactly, ponder, be concerned. Do you want to let your what's inside bubble up? Because it's not just the word I, but it means this deep well of percolating things and bubbling and up to the surface. Place of, mem nun kaf. Mem is the place of, nun kaf, but nun kaf, where you get knocked around, it means to be lame, beaten, and struck like a scoundrel. Away, knave! Hit him with your cane. Knave, K-N-A-V-E, is the Old English word meaning a scoundrel. Away, knave! I mean, I just remember that as a kid hearing that. Get knocked about. But it means low, base, contemptible, and discounted, like nicked and dented. So in English, we have the word nick, to be nicked or scratched, nun kaf, N-K. But again, the great use of the dictionary, the interesting thing, if you look at nun kaf vav tav, well, vav tav is a plural suffix, it means treasure house. But you can't look at the dictionary for nun kaf and find that it means treasure. But it means a museum or a treasure house. And Klein says it's used in Isaiah chapter 39, verse 2, where Hezekiah had the Babylonians come in visiting ambassadors, and he showed them everything he had. He showed them the museum, the archives, the temple, his palace, all his stashed loot, and saying, gee, hasn't the Elohim of Israel been wonderful to us? And that's where the prophet, I think it was Isaiah, came up to Hezekiah and said, hey, who are those guys and what did you show them? And he says, oh, they're just some foreign dignitaries. He says, those guys were spies. They're going to go back and report to the king, and the king's going to come and ravage our country and steal every single thing you showed them. But not in your lifetime, it'll be later. And Hezekiah goes, okay, cool, whatever. It's like, God, everything he showed in his treasure house. That's the word treasure house. And it comes from the word nun kaf vav nun, which means correct, true, accurate, right, certain, clear, prepared, and ready. What? Prepared and ready? Why, that's the word Erik, ayin resh kaf. To be prepared and ready, to make something so organized that it's true, right, accurate, prepared, and ready. Well, that's the same as the word treasure house and museum. I'm just trying to show you, connecting the dots, ciphering this language, proving that we're on the right track, because to be able to do this, to look at words that are used once in scripture, and that it's a synonym with this other word, which has to do with reading the letters to knowing what the words mean, and everything ties together with the stories we're reading in Daniel, where Belshazzar is going to get in big trouble in a couple chapters for drinking out of the goblets that Nebuchadnezzar stole from the treasure house that Hezekiah showed his envoys. It's all tied together. And it's going to play into the archetypical icon of Europe, which is a picture of the lady riding the bull. We're going to get to that by the end of this talk. And it's like, what is that got to do with this? You'll see. But anyway, bubble up this treasure house of Mem Lamed Tav. Well, that's a derivative of Mem Lamed Aleph, which means fullness, but it's also a derivative of Mem Lamed Lamed, which means to speak, speech. King, and then the word Hevav Dalet Ayin Tav Nun Aleph. Dalet Ayin Tav is the root in the middle, which means to make known. So the king had this stirred up, and so Daniel said, thank you, Yahuwah, for taking the deepest, darkest mysteries and making them known to me so I can tell the king. Anyway, that's it for verses 20 to 23. I'm just saying that that's what Daniel said in those verses is the exact same heart that we have for looking at this study. Let's jump ahead to verse 31. He says, "You, O king, were watching, and behold, a huge statue. This statue, which is immense and whose brightness was extraordinary," I'm reading from Stone's Tanakh, "stood opposite you, and its appearance was fearsome. This statue, its head of fine gold, its breast and arms of silver, belly and thighs of copper, its legs of iron, and its feet partly of iron and partly of earthenware. As you watched," this is verse 34, and it's repeated later, and this is the critical part that we're going to talk about in a bit. "As you watched, a stone was hewn without hands and struck the statue on its feet of iron and earthenware and crumbled them." Verse 35, "Then they crumbled together, the iron, the earthenware, the copper, the silver, and the gold. They became like chaff from summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, and no trace was found of them. And the stone that struck the statue became a great mountain and filled the entire earth. This is the dream, and we will tell its interpretation before the king." And that's verse 36. So if I read between Daniel 31 and 36, then I was going to jump up to verse 43. Now, I'm going to guess that most people have heard of this or read this, and the Seventh-day Adventists certainly have talked a lot about it. But I'm just going to jump through a little bit. But let me go back to verse 31. "You, O king, were watching." Well, the word is hazach, het zayin hey, which means a vision, and then hoit, hey vav yod tav. I used to know a man named Hoyt, and it means to exist, right? It's got hey vav yod. There's a tav, and any word with heys, yods, and vavs basically has to do with existence. Vav, aleph lamed vav. Well, aleph lamed is the word for to deify, but it means toward, motion toward. It's something that means in the positive or perhaps in the negative. Zadi lamed mem is the word statue or something with an image or a form. And then here's the word chet dalet, which is translated one, but it also means sharp, pointed, and acute. So that's where you get the word chadesh, chet dalet sin, like Rosh Chodesh. And people think, oh, that means the beginning of the month, Rosh Chodesh. Well, Rosh means head, which can mean beginning or foundation, but Chodesh, well, that means month. Well, but is that the sliver of the moon? Well, it means sharp, pointed, acute, singular, like the number one, which is pretty thin. Dalet Shin is a thin blade of grass. Well, that's like a sliver. But is Rosh Chodesh the sliver of the month, or is it the round, full head of the month? Well, if Chodesh is really a thin sliver, then Rosh Chodesh might be the full moon. But everybody says Rosh Chodesh is the thin sliver, or the conjunction, which means the zero nothing of the moon. Again, I'm just showing you where the confusion comes from. That's a different matter, which we're not going to address. But what is het dalet? Does it mean just one singular? If you put a yod and a vav in between, het yod dalet or het vav dalet, you'll see that it's where we get the word in English hid, H-I-D, which is a riddle or a quiz or a puzzle. So the root of this is that, yes, there was a singular statue, but the statue is a puzzle, a riddle. Shin Gimel Yod Aleph. Well, Gimel Yod Aleph, Gia, is where you get the word geo, G-E-O, which is also where you get the word G-A-I-A, Gaia, which is what people say is the name of the earth or the goddess earth or something along those. That's where it comes from, Hebrew, Gimel Yod Aleph. But here it means great, lofty, and exalted. This great statue, but Gimel Yod Aleph also means mistake and error. What? There's a riddle with mistakes. What does that mean? Find your way around the checkerboard. Well, that's not really a checkerboard. There's some mistakes going on. That's right. It's not a checkerboard at all. But it looks like a checkerboard. You would have thought it was a checkerboard, but it's not a checkerboard. It's just kind of, sort of. Okay, so there's an erroneous sort of riddle. And then here's the word statue again, Zadi Lamed Mem Aleph, and then Dalet Kaf Nun. Dalet Kaf means nun suffix, putting the action, suppression, crushing, surging waves of crushing oppression. So now this statue is, though it's just standing there, people draw it with his hands like this. There's something about surging waves. Well, wave after wave, line after line of wham, wham. It's like getting flogged, like a tsunami after tsunami, hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, earthquake after earthquake. It's like, oh gosh. Something about this is about that. Resh bet means great or many, multiplied. Vav Zion Yod Vav Hey. Well, Zion is a weapon. Zion Hey and Zadi Aleph Tav both mean Zion, excuse me, not Zadi. Zion Yod, Zion Hey, Zion Aleph Tav means this. So you could say this weaponism. Zion is a weapon. It means to be adorned with weapons. There's something about this statue which is a weapon system or waves of various weapon systems. And remember, this is all Yahuwah's game. Game of rocks. Yod, Tav, Yod, Resh. Well, Tav, Yod, Resh is where you get the word to be awake, to show the way, or guide tourists, is where we get the word tire, like a round tire that rolls, like on a car, or the word tour, which is to go around sightseeing. And then Kuf Aleph Mem means to vomit up. Kuf Aleph, yeah! To make something appear that was otherwise hidden. And then showing what is then Lamed, Kuf Bet Lamed Kaf. According to Kuf Bet Lamed means opposite. It also, though, means receive and accept, something put into, corresponding, parallel, battering ram, contractor, complaint, and in the face of. So when you need work done, you got to call a contractor because he's got equipment and knowledge and skill that you don't have. But you hate the contractor because he charges you money. And you say, can you do this? And he says, it can't be done this way. It has to be done that way. Yeah. So he's the guy opposite you. There's always this fighting. I'm a contractor. I know that job. I know that routine. Here's a cup. You know what you do with a cup? It's got an open end. You pour something in and it can pour out. So the cup is designed to take the fact that something can go into the cup. There's a receiver and something which then penetrates into. That's the meaning of Kuf Bet Lamed, cabal, receive and accept. Built, corresponding, parallel, battering ram. Here's a gate. How do you break through the gate? You get a battering ram and you pound on the gate with a certain force until the gate blows open and you can enter the city. It's all an arms race, weaponization. That's what this is about. Vav, Resh, Vav, Hey. Resh, Vav, Hey in the dictionary means give water, satiate, fill a thirst, saturate, soaked, abundantly, or intoxicated. It's like, King, you were thirsty. And this dream, this vision is giving you what you thirst for. Here's the cup, he's filling the cup. And what were you thirsty for? The last word, Det Het Yod Lamed, fear, terror, and awe. See, they didn't have movies back in those days, but they had theater. But the king was, well, why do people go to war? War is hell, but it's a grand, glorious hell, apparently. There was, I think it was the movie Gladiator. In the Colosseum, they flooded it with water and had the ships from Carthage, fighting against Rome. It's like, hey, we're going to have a real live battle. It's like going to Pirates of the Caribbean in Disneyland, and you can see, the fort and the pirate ships and cannons going off, and it's like boys' toys, men's sports, fear, terror, awe. This was just Hollywood movie, and Yahweh's version of a Hollywood movie, because Nebuchadnezzar just had a taste for this. The place of war is known as the theater of war. There you go. Verse 32, it, Hey Vav Aleph, referring to the Zadi La Mem Aleph, the statue, Resh Aleph Shin Hey. Well, that means head, but it's also pinnacle and foundation. So the word Rosh is not only the top, it's the beginning, the basis, the summit, but also the root. Rosh is a very interesting word. So the first word of Genesis, Berashit, in the beginning, the head, but also the source, the where it's established at its base. Same exact word in Hebrew. Dalet Yod, Dalet Hey Bet, and then the word Tet Bet. Well, Tet Bet is where you get the word Tov, which means fine or good. And Dalet Hey Bet, there's 2 or 3 words for gold. This is one of them. Gold, fine gold. Okay, let's leave it there for now. Then there's the word breast and arms. Only it doesn't say that. It says Het Dalet Vav Hey Yod. Vav Hey and Yod. Hey, that means to exist, but that's actually the suffix. And then the word Het Dalet. Well, we said that meant one sharp-pointed, conical, or acute. And then the word, you look in the dictionary, Het Dalet Vav Hey, it means joy and gladness. Where's the chest? Where's the breast? What the heck is he talking about? The word Het Zion can mean frontal, pectoral, chest or breast, but not this word. Now, is this an Aramaic word that doesn't show up in the Hebrew dictionary? Maybe, but I'm just trying to show you where the discrepancies are. If it means joy and gladness, what has that got to do with this section of the body? Joy and gladness. You can look at some, Arnold Schwarzenegger or Dolly Parton and say, well, boy, there's somebody that's really built. Well, they make themselves movie stars, and people like looking at that. Maybe it has something to do with it. The next word, Vav Dalet Resh Ayin, Vav Hey Yod. The word Dalet Resh Ayin doesn't show up in the dictionary. Again, is it an Aramaic word? But Resh Ayin means thought, and it means companion, and it means evil, harm, and wicked. Dalet Resh, well, that's the word dar for generation, or it's your turn in the queue, your turn to go around. Hey Dalet Resh means adorned, repeated, citrus fruit, or to publish a new edition. Well, if this is your torso and you've got arms, that's like the fruit, the citrus fruit. You look at the statue of Venus, that Roman statue, that lady, both the arms are broken off. Well, the arms are kind of an adornment. So I'm saying that I can look at these 2 words, Het Dalet Vav Hey Yod, Dalet Resh Ayin Vav Hey Yod, and it does not say breast and arms, but it's translated that way. What does it mean? Joy and gladness and adorned, repeated thoughts of evil. What? Problem with the dictionary. We'll get into that a little bit later. Dalet Yod Kaf Samik Pei is the word for silver, and then the word Mem Ayin Vav Hey Yod. That's translated thigh, loin, or flank. Belly, and that's translated belly. And then the word Vav Yod Resh Kaf Tav Hey is translated as thigh, loin, or flank, or innermost part, hinder part, the hinder part. Well, is that your backside? Well, that's where we get the word in English, hiney. Is that your rear end? But it's the innermost part. What's he talking about? And how is that the word thigh? Remember, Abraham sent off his servant and he put his hand under his thigh, only it wasn't his thigh. Remember, Jacob was wrestling with the angel, and the angel struck him or touched his Yod Resh Kaf. Well, that was his thigh, or the ligament of his thigh. Well, not necessarily. So what parts is this? The word Mem Ayin Vav Hey Yod. Well, Ayin Vav Hey, it means Mem Ayin means kernel, small grain, where you get the word mote. The mote, take the mote out of your eye before you take the log out of your eye before you try to get the mote out of your fellow's eye. Ayin Vav Hey means bend, twist, perverse, deviate, iniquity. That's like something all turned. That's like your intestines, the inner part of your intestines, and then this other part, Yod Resh Kaf, has to do with the place of procreation, gonads, pudenda, soft, weak, timid, tender, delicate is the word Resh Kaf. It's like, oh, don't hit me there. What's he talking about? We'll get to that in a minute. Dalet Yod Nun Chet Shin copper. So just because we're reading, oh, that's his belly and thighs, not necessarily what it means. Breast and arms, not necessarily what it means. Why am I saying this? I'm not trying to take away from the picture of the statue, but remember, going back to verse 31, it's a riddle with mistakes, or a riddle designed to throw you off the track. Why are we talking about it today? Because we're trying to read the staging of the chessboard that's set up in our world around us right now, here at the end of the month of August 22nd of the year 2021. And we are being told that the entire world is staged like a certain battlefield theater on a chessboard, and the whole thing is a dirty damn lie. The players are liars. The staging is a lie. The pieces' value that are poised against each other is also a lie. It's all a big stage. They, the guys running this thing, are duping the audience to think something is happening, but Yahuwah, our Elohim of Israel, is duping them to think that they're running something. And the whole reason for reading this and realizing that it's a great, lofty mistake, but only if you read Hebrew, and only if you look at the same words for the metals and the body parts where you realize what's really being said. And it all goes to making known to the Kadoshi of Yahweh. Am I green? Why is Erik green? Green? I don't know what you're talking about. Must be some color thing going on. It doesn't look that way here.
Sorry, Erik. It was a green shade over your picture, and I didn't know what happened.
I was going to say, boy, that's almost like that fourth horse of the Riders of the Apocalypse. You know, we're talking about these end times. It's like, oh, are you trying to say something?
Oh, no. Sorry.
Anyway, no big deal. The land of Iraq, Iraq, while in Hebrew, Yod Resh Kuf means green. You know, it's got to do with the same area that Nebuchadnezzar was in when he had this dream. That's why it was all the staging. Just playing into it there. Anyway, verse 32, we just did. So this is now verse 32. Shin Kuf Vav He Yod is translated legs. If you've ever been to Israel, there's a place in Jerusalem called the Shuk. Have you ever heard of that? The Shuk? That's this word. It means legs, marketplace, to move about noisily, hustling and bustling. It also means desire. Well, why are you at the marketplace? Because you want to buy something. And so you move around looking at this, looking at that, and everybody talking and rattling their bags. Native Americans had this thing made out of feathers on their hiney, on their backside, all these feathers, and you'd take a feather and you'd slice it down the middle and it would start to curl, and you'd make what's called a bustle. And so you get these Indian dancers. They have a bustle on their backside, then they have one on the back of their neck, a smaller one. And as they're dancing, it's moving. That's the same word, bustle, as shook. Anyway, the word iron, Peresh Zion Lamed, in Hebrew, it's Bet Resh Zion Lamed. So why would it be Peresh Zion Lamed? Again, makes no difference. Brazil, Persil, just the word iron. Just the word iron in English. But we're going to look at that in just a couple minutes as the significance of the spelling of this word. And then Gimel Lamed Lamed. Galal. Vav He Yod is the suffix. Oh, that must be the word feet. Doesn't say it's feet. What it means is roll up, remove, seek occasion against, provoke a conflict, or for the sake of. It's like find or provoke a weighty matter so that we can have a conflict. I remember as a kid, somebody saying, yeah, something they used to say in the olden days, you know, put a chip on my shoulder. I dare to knock that off. Knock it off. Okay, them's fighting. You know, them's fighting words. It's like, oh, come on. That's what people do. You set up a situation where no situation has to exist and say, now, if you do this or you don't do this, now we have a big fight. It's like, okay, we're going to design that you have to wear a mask. Only all the scientists say, and the mask manufacturers and OSHA, who knows about masks, say the mask does nothing. But now we're going to say, if you don't wear the mask, you're going to make everybody sick, and you're now a criminal, even though we're going to put stuff in the mask that if you do wear the mask, you're going to get sick. What? Yeah, we're going to make masks the issue. But the mask is a big lie. It means nothing. It does nothing. As a matter of fact, it's counterproductive to what they're going to pretend it does. Yeah, but if you don't want to wear a mask, you're fighting. It's like, shut up. Oh, that's what this word means. The reason I'm going on about that is not to get hyped up about some insane lie, but I'm saying that's the meaning of this word. Isn't it interesting that here in 2021, this word, gimel lamed lamed, which means to roll up like a piece of dog dung, to seek an occasion against, for the sake of provoking a conflict, just design a weighty matter. That's exactly what this word means. And so here's another interesting thing. Had I done this study 5 years ago, I might have come up with different things that made me think of. But here, all of a sudden in 2021, we're going to find all kinds of words that fit exactly to our worldwide circumstances. Imagine that. Serendipitously, it just so happens, hey, just like Kufresh Aleph. What do you know? And then the next word, mem nun hey vav nun. Well, nun, mem is a prefix, cause to happen. Nun hey, well, that's mourning, wail, and lament. Yeah, like what they're doing to us with the mask mandate and the distancing, and you can't do this, and you can't open a business, and you can't blah, 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 blah. All that stuff, they're making up stuff in order to provoke a conflict, in order to generate attitudes to hopefully provoke some kind of civil war, like staging on us and them of the chessboard. The whole thing's a theatrical falsehood, a lie. The whole thing's a scam, run by somebody who is in their position to be able to do such a thing. Well, mem nun, hey vav nun, count, number, appoint, allotted share, ordain, ration, assigned, or reckoned. Somebody's in the position to mem, cause to happen, mourning and lament. Well, is it the puppet masters? Or is it Yahweh running them? Or is it the devil? Maybe a little bit of all. The more you see, the more you realize how it's all staged. Dalet Yod, Peresh Zion Lamed, Mem Nun, Hey Vav Nun. Hey, there's that same word again. Assigned a quota of lament is another way to read that. Assigned a quota, that's Mem Nun. Nun Hey, lamenting. But it can also mean longed for or following eagerly. I've heard people talk about, oh, it's the tribulation's almost upon us. Hey, bring it on, baby. Bring on the tribulation. Let's have at it. Wait a minute. There's some people who so love war, who so love the carnage that they want this tribulation to happen. And they're doing everything they can to play into the prophecy. So it makes you wonder, when you read about the prophecy in Matthew 24 in King James English, was telling us about what was going to happen. Was that just bait? Was he baiting the guys that could set this up? Would he do something like that? Hey, you know, there's going to be a tribulation. You guys can really take advantage of this. Really? Maybe that's us. Remember what he did to Pharaoh. Now, Pharaoh said, Moshe, you get out of here and take all your Hebrews with you. Just get out of my land. And then the Israelite Hebrews asked the Egyptians, and they received favor, and they took gold and silver and jewels and clothing and all sorts of stuff. And they started running across the desert, across the Sinai Peninsula into Saudi Arabia. They're trapped right at the Red Sea. And Yahweh had stiffened Pharaoh's neck, hardened his heart. What does that mean? It's almost, he kind of said, after Pharaoh resisted and they got a chance to escape, it's almost like Yahweh put a bug in Pharaoh's ear and says, you're going to let him get away with that? Really? You're going to let a bunch of mongrel slaves take all your wealth and riches and just run across the desert, and you're going to do nothing about it? What kind of a wimpy Pharaoh are you? What? He just goaded Pharaoh to go, yeah, and gear up all his best army soldier forces and just go tearing off across the desert to chase them down and get it back. Yahweh has a way of stirring up the mind, agitating the thoughts of our enemies to have them do insane things at just the right time. He's going to stage something where these guys stick their face right into the trap, into the rat trap. Yahweh's got this. They think they're staging something against us. And as we said before, Yahweh's using his kadoshim, his kadoshim elyonin, his special ones, as bait for these bad guys. It's what he does. That's the way he plays the game. We'll see that. Verse 34. Chazah, vision exists. That's that word hoit again. Witness, or made evident, die, He Tav, Gimel Zayin Resh Tav. That's the word geezer. There's a famous guy named Geezer. I believe he's the bassist of a band named Black Sabbath. But I think that's who that word is. Anyway, then there's the word stone. Die lo be yedin ve machat la zalma el regal. Regal, that's feet or legs, but yet we had different words earlier. We had the words shuk and galal. Now it's regal, di parzala, ve chet samik pei. That's clay vav hey dalit kuf tav hey mem vav nun. Okay, we're going to look at these words. This is the really critical verse here. The visions exist. Witness, you. It's translated, you saw the stone not cut with human hands. Well, let's look at that. Hey Tav Gimel Zayin Resh. Well, Gimel Zayin Resh, that word geezer, means to cut into sections. It's also the word carrot. So he saw a petrified carrot, because the following word is eben, which is stone, also means to be petrified. A petrified carrot. What about the stone not cut from the mountain with human hands? Where's the mountain? The word dailo beyadin. Well, bet yod dalet yod nun. Yod dalet yod, that's hand and arm. Bet means in the condition of, and yod nun is the plural. So where's the word human? Vav mem chet tav. Chet tav means terrifying destruction, ruined. Shattered, dismayed, abhorred. Mem means the place of. But mem chet tav aleph means to strike. When you have a loom, so you've got all the vertical threads, and then you send in the weaving. It's a strike. You send in the weaving. There's a certain name for it, a stick. Anyway, it shoots through the weaving in and out of the threads, and you pull the horizontal thread, and then you weave it back this way, and then you weave it back that way. That's this word. It's to the weaving action, almost like a lance being shot right through. Interestingly enough, mem het tav hey means fire pan. Well, that's like Nadab and Abihu. Remember Aaron's sons, they brought their fire pans, their incense censers, into the tabernacle where it wasn't authorized, and they were both struck dead. How were they struck dead? Didn't tell us exactly. Yahweh, like what fire came down? Was it a comet? Was it a lightning bolt? Some kind of fire came down to heaven and just nailed those two guys right out of the blue, right on the parade ground floor. That's a vision of how Yahweh is going to send in a strike of wham! Whoa, didn't even see that coming. Just like that. That's what this is saying. not with human armed conflict. If you look in the dictionary, Yod Dalet Yod Nun means to fight with the hands, pugnacious, or poof, like the symbol of the fighting Irish from Notre Dame College, University there. Yeah, like that. Not hewn with human hands. It's that petrified carrot. That word geezer means to cut into pieces. Like you take a tree trunk and you take your chainsaw and you cut it up into firewood. That's the same word, geezer. It means also, though, to derive a word. Derive a word. It's like chopping up a word into its letter parts. Jazir. Al Jazeera, isn't that the name of the newspaper, the Islamic Palestinian newspaper? Al Jazeera, that's the word Jazeera, same word. It means decree, decision, or prohibition. If somebody says, okay, you can't do that anymore. You guys can't open your business. You guys can't have people sitting in those chairs. You guys have to have somebody else sitting in between, or you have to say 6 feet apart. This word geezer literally means making a bunch of prohibitions and decrees by which somebody is allowed to do or can't do. It's kind of like playing that stupid little game as kids, Mother May I, or Simon Says. You can do this. No, you can't. Why? Shut up. I'm Simon. It's like, what? Why were we taught those games? They're so aggravating. To even think about them now. My point is, that's what this word geezer means. To cut something into parts. Why? Guess what? To sit here and read the alphabet like on the Eriktology chart. Cut something into sections. To read these words, what we are doing right now is geezer. We're being geezers. Looking at these sentences, looking at every word in the individual letters, prefixes, suffixes, root words, related words. It's like taking a carrot, because a carrot is, by design, the thing you chop up and throw it into soup. That's what this means. Stone can mean petrified, but aleph is a prefix. Bet nun is to build. It's also the word for son. Aleph bet is the word father. Bet nun is son. Aleph bet, like the word aviv, have this youthful desire. Nun putting into action. So when the voice from heaven said, "Behold my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased," when Yeshua is getting baptized, it's beloved is the word David. So the voice from heaven said, "This is Ben David. This is my son David, in whom I'm well pleased. This is my beloved son." Beloved son. Yeshua said, "I only do the things I see my father doing. I only say the things I hear him saying." That's the beloved son. So for us to study these words, listening to his voice so that we'll do what he said to do, and hear his words and understand and comprehend and take it apart and repeat out of our own mouths the things that he said, is that not also being his Eben? Such that not by human armed conflict, the terrifying destruction and ruin of the statue will hit upon or impact its regal. The word regal means feet or leg, but it also means to do something frequently: spy, slander, espionage, base measure. It means habit, familiar, custom, traditionally, on foot, pawn, or infantry. The things you do habitually, that's like customs, habits, and traditions of a culture. So somehow it's the traditions and habits, the holidays of a culture establish how everybody walks together. 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, Christmas, Easter, Saturday, Sports Day. And then you'll see that every month, or almost every day of the month, they'll say, "Oh, this is the day of this. This is the month of this." The Catholics have a feast day proclaimed for every day of the year, the Feast of Different Saints. That's right. That's what keeps everybody together, the feasts and the festivals. Why is it that of all the pagan feasts and festivals that are remembered and celebrated around the world, and especially in America, how come none of them are Yahweh's Moedim? They're not really feasts. Thanks, Rico. You're right. They're not really feasts. They're Moedim. They're festivals of rejoicing. Hey, anybody have a shofar to blow? Remember that? Uh-oh, I hit a button. The book flew open. Am I still on? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
My whole screen changed. I hit something and my book went flying and hit the mouse pad and oh well. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to carry on. My screen page is different, but that's okay. So something about this stone, which means where's the mountain that was not cut, that the stone was cut from the mountain, not with human hands? It doesn't exist in this verse. We'll get to it in a little while. Let me go to verse, the last part. Hey, Dalet Kuf Tav. Well, Dalet Kuf, dak means fine, meticulous, pedantic, every little detail. But it means, hey, Dalet Kuf, or Dalet Kuf, the Dalet Kuf Tav means fastening together. The clip which fastens together. But the word gezer means to clip off, to cut into sections. So it's interesting that the word gezer and dakat or hadakat are opposite. One's the clip and the other thing means to unclip. Well, what is it that clips together the head of gold, the arms of silver, the midsection bronze, the legs of iron, the feet of iron mixed with clay, just to take that at the surface? What is it that holds it all together? Greco-Roman culture, tradition. So then what's the Gizar Eben, the stone which cuts it all apart? Well, the governing authority of different countries these days are making stupid laws and getting people at each other's throats, fomenting civil unrest. That's one way. But also, if you undo the cultural celebrations, just to use America, for example, New Year's Day, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, May Day, Christmas, Easter, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, if you change those festivals and make them of Yahweh's kingdom, Jewish holidays, Israelite, Hebrew celebrations, you've just undone the clip that held all those guys together, and now you've made a new clip to hold the 12 tribes of Israel together. A Gizer Eben. Because it's the familiar customs, habits, and traditions which hold all the pawns walking together. That's what this is saying. And then the last word of verse 34, hey, mem, vav, nun, mon, that's where we get the word numerator, meter, classification, but also mem, yod, nun means falsification, lie, and furrow, everybody stuck in the same rut, furrow of deception. So we've heard a term show up the last few years called fake news, but there's also a little matter called fake history. If you know what I mean, then you'll know what I mean. And if you don't, that seems like strange words. In the book 1984 by George Orwell, he starts off saying, whoever controls the present controls the past, because you can change history. And if you control the past, you control the future, because now you can mess with people's minds and you can drive the way they think. Fake history. If you tell lies about history, then if you look up the word Tartaria and mud floods, oh man, we don't know what we've got. We don't know anything other than what we've been told. And when you're told you've got fake translations, fake news, fake history, then you realize we got fake science and fake NASA. Really? Fake satellite pictures? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a satellite to go up there and find out, but I've heard people say you can't believe what? The only thing we can believe is these letters and these words. They've been running us around. They've been perpetuating this statue. Goes on to say Nebuchadnezzar was the first guy, and that was about 600 BC. So ever since about 600 BC, that statue has been ruling wave after wave of oppression, like surging tsunamis that Yahweh has been driving. And then you get verse 35. This is really interesting. in Stones Tanakh, it says, then they crumbled together. The iron, the earthenware, the copper, the silver, and the gold. That's in reverse order, right? It starts at the feet and works its way up. They became like chaff from a summer threshing floor, and the wind carried them away, and no trace is found of them. And the stone that was struck the statue became a great mountain, filled the entire earth. We're going to look at that verse here. So it says, Bet Aleph Dalet Yod Nun, Ba Adin. Remember, Adin, that sounds like Adonai. And then Dalet Kufav, there's that word dak, which means fine and meticulous, to scrutinize the detail. Kaf, Het, Dalet, Hey. Het, Dalet, Hey, a riddle. Kaf means like a riddle. Okay, there. Those first three words, and then iron, clay, potsherd. What are the first three words we read here in Stones Tanakh? Then they crumbled together. Wait a minute. Like a lord, meticulous, like a riddle. What do you mean, then they crumbled together? Where do they come up with that definition? Then they crumbled together. You look at another translation, it says, broken to pieces at the same time. I'm sorry, I just can't see that. I don't see where it says that. The first three words of verse 35, Daniel chapter 2, Bet Aleph Dalet Yod Nun. Well, Dalet Yod Nun is where you get the word Din, like Bet Din, house of judges. It means to choose or decide. Bet Aleph means to enter, or by the authority of. Aleph, I will. It means to rule, to judge, or possess. I possess the right to make a determination. Well, they're trying to take away those determinations. That's the whole agenda of what's been going on this year. Dalet Kufav means meticulous, but every word. Hey, we're making decisions about every word during this study. Kaf, Het, Dalet, Hey. Het, Dalet, Hey is the word riddle. Het, Vav, Dalet, Het, Yod, Dalet, Hey means abandoned, shut, closed, neutralized. But Het, Dalet, Hey also means to rejoice. So if we rejoice because every word is being opened up like it's one of these suitcases that's been carrying this mystery for the last 3,000 years almost. Somebody saying something? I hear these noises and I look up, but again, my screen got messed up. I don't know what's going on. If somebody has to say something, please grab my attention.
3 minutes.
3 minutes? Gosh. The iron, clay, potsherds, copper, silver, gold, we're going to look at that in a minute. And they, Kaf, ayin, vav, resh. Well, ayin, vav, resh is the word for to be aroused or nakedness. Kaf, ayin, vav, resh means ugly or unseemly. Ugly and unseemly? What? What is ugly and unseemly? Mem nun, aleph, dalet, resh, yod, kuf, yod, tet. Well, kuf, yod, tet means summer. But kuf vav tet means loathing or disgust. Is that a secondary adjective to ugly and unseemly? Aleph dalet resh yod suffix means an animal skin, garment, mantle, high, wide, glorious, or month of threshing. So summertime, right about now, right before Sukkot, when the sun's out and it's hot and the crops get dried out so you can harvest them, they're at their peak of vigor. That's what this is talking about. But there's something about ugly, unseemly, loathing, disgust. Why, I'll tell you one thing, Hebrews have been looked over all these past 2,700 years with loathing, disgust as being ugly and unseemly, them damn stupid Jews. Yeah, that's how they referred to anybody regarding Yahweh's stuff. Even the Christians said, we'll have nothing to do with those detestable practices of the Jews, the people that Yahweh loves to hate. Well, that's what people say. Only that's not true at all. That's just the mantle that's been carried. So it's to the point that Tovia in the movie, in the play Fiddler on the Roof says, I know we're the chosen people, but could you choose somebody else for a while? Yeah, choose somebody else for a while. Choose us. Choose me. Thank you. Lift up and carry, nun, shin, aleph, hey, mem, vav, nun. Pick up and carry the burden for the masses, ruach, the spirit of all. Aleph, tav, resh means I will search. It means localized. It says the wind carried it away, but We're going to take up the burden for the sake of everyone else, for the whole world, the whole house of Israel and Yehuda, not forgotten. Lo, hey, shatachak, shin tav, kaf, chet, means being forgotten, not forgotten. Lamed hey vav nun, riches, venture capital, to dare enough. Never forget what these guys have done. And the stone of Mem Het Tav. Well, Mem Het can mean brainy, but Het Tav is weaving, terror, destruction, ruin. Never forget how they have dared. You want to know what these guys are daring to do? Look up the word graphene oxide. Listen to America's frontline doctors. Listen to a few people telling you what is some doctors, some scientists, like the head of Pfizer, and there's another guy, I keep forgetting his name, a Jewish guy who has just said that everybody that's taken this little thing might not be here within 3 years. Imagine that. Imagine that the guys, the monster that's trying to drive this thing, are trying to kill off 3/4 of the world's population within 3 years. That's what this thing is designed to do, according to some. Imagine that. Is that something that we should get whooped up about? There's just a couple more words here. Then we got to quit. Just a second. You want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay, the last few words of this sentence. Lamed, Zadi Lamed Mem Aleph means the image, according to the image, it. Lamed Tet Vav Resh, row, line of script, mountain range, mathematical series, great, Reshbat, and then the word Vav Mem Lamed Tav, which is a word matter, a thing, or to fill, all Aleph Resh Ayin Aleph, which means the earth. Well, in Hebrew, Aleph Resh Zadi means earth, but in Aramaic, it's Aleph Resh Ayin. Oh, okay, it just means earth. No, wait a minute. Resh Ayin means to think about, evil, friend, and harm. It says, this rock was cut from the mountain, not with human hands. It's not the word mountain. It's Tet Vav Resh, which means a row, a line of script, a mountain range, or a mathematical series, or like foot soldiers of infantry. If you look at the battles of ancient days, you had rows of infantry, and they'd march forward and against another row, and they'd wipe each other out, and then another row against another row. It's like lines on the checkerboard. Don't necessarily fight like that anymore. The people are hiding in holes and throwing missiles and bombs and various other things, but line upon line, well, that's like waves of a surging sea, wave after wave after wave. That's what Tet Vav Resh means. But it's translated a mountain, and that the stone would come out of a mountain, not hewn with human hands. But it doesn't say that. Something about this petrified carrot, or being a good son who is looking at every word and letter that Yahweh said, is going to interrupt row after row. To make a weaving, you've got the vertical strings, and then this weaver's, forget what the word actually is, the shuttle that shoots in between this way and then that way, pulling another string this way and that way until you form the whole tapestry. Yahweh's going to shoot something in to interrupt the wave after wave. And it has to do with this Gizar Eben. And that's what stops the successive wave after wave of a pressing, surging tribulation that this statue has been bringing for the last 2,700 years. Interesting that the correlation, when I say 700 BC, that goes about to the days of Nebuchadnezzar, but 2,730 is the number of years of the curse, 7 times 390, Leviticus 26 and Ezekiel chapter 4, brings us to 2010. And somehow then we're woken up and shake off the ugliness of the loathing of the disgust. But we shouldn't forget who these people are, who this beast is, who this amalgamation. See, we could see this as a series: head of gold, arms of silver, midsection bronze, legs of iron mixed with clay and say, okay, those are successive kingdoms. But to blend them all together, why, it almost looks like the American dream. The economics, the military, the intelligentsia, the culture, the guts of the kingdom, the two pillars, the legs of iron, Greece and Rome, or Christianity and Islam. It's like, man, we got it all. Is that who the statue is? We're going to take a break. Well, the last verse, real quick, verse 30. These are the dream and arrange, explain, interpret, declare. Kadam Melcha is early, ancient, in front, pioneer, advanced, primary, beginning, is the word Kuf Dalet Mem, very similar to Paleo, Mem Lamed Kaf He, which is to say, you, O king, are the first. That sets the date for Nebuchadnezzar, days of Daniel, somewhere around. Well, Daniel was about 500 BC. The grandson Belshazzar, contemporary with him, Nebuchadnezzar was the king that took over Jerusalem. So Nebuchadnezzar is where it started, about 700 BC, days of Isaiah 28. We just did that series around those same days. We'll pick up with verse 43 right after this break.